Hey guys, Mr. Neese. I'm going to talk a little bit about U.S. History TEKS SE 8A. So what does 8A say? Describe U.S. responses to Soviet aggression after World War II, including the Truman Doctrine, the Marshall Plan, the Berlin Airlift, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and John F. Kennedy's role in the Cuban Missile Crisis. So a lot of stuff there. We're going to kind of go at a high level because it should be a review, and we'll start with the first one. So, first one, Soviet aggression after World War II. So, remember 1920, 1921, we have a communist versus anti-communist fight in Russia. Communists win, and we will get the Soviet Union will become a part of this expanding communist movement, and this is countries becoming communist. So that in World War II, when World War II is over, the areas that basically the Soviets have moved into in Eastern Europe, they stay. And these countries become part of the Soviet Union. So there's constant, and by the communist definition, it's world domination, okay? And that is a threat to democratic countries like ourselves or any other countries that are democratic, especially if they're close to the Soviet Union. So that's a constant growing aggression. We're going to see our policy is going to be more containment. We want to kind of make sure it doesn't grow. And the Truman Doctrine is one of the things that we do under President Truman. And this specifically addresses some issues in Greece and Turkey where the Soviets are trying to expand their influence. And basically we put out a statement saying, hey, we will take economic, political, military, whatever kind of sources we have to bear against anyone who tries to, impose themselves on a democratic country. You try to knock around a democratic country somewhere, we're going to be there. And that was the Truman Doctrine, specifically trying to deal with some issues with Greece and Turkey. Marshall Plan. So, Marshall Plan, after World War II, you got a lot of countries that are democratic, but they're kind of weak financially. We've just been through a world war. This was a financial boost and support, loans, aid to help benefit these democratic countries to help them get back on their feet. Because again, the fear was they become weak, they may turn communist. So that was the Marshall Plan. Berlin Airlift, 48 through 49. So let's do a little background on that. Soviets move in, we move in, the Western Allies move in, France, Britain, and the United States. We move into Germany. We divide Germany up, okay? There's a West Germany, which is controlled by the British, French, and Americans, and there's an East Germany. Now, in East Germany is Berlin. Guess what? We divide it up too. There's a West Berlin and a East Berlin in East Germany. Now, the west side is, again, us and our allies. The eastern side is the Soviets. And, well, the Soviets get a little irritated and decide they're going to blockade West Berlin. I mean, they have East Germany surrounding it, so they're just not going to let us in or out by land. So we decided to do an airlift. And to provide the resources that West Berlin needed, we were doing 24-hour flights. I think it was like 35 planes landing an hour at its peak. It was a remarkable thing. And just to kind of show the Soviets, you know what, we can do it. We can make this work, and we did. So that is a quick kind of overview of the Berlin Airlift. And eventually the Soviets will back off and realize it was a dud, it didn't work. So, Cuban Missile Crisis. All right, so we're talking about 62, President Kennedy. Cuba has become communist. They're friends with the Soviets. The Soviets decide, hey, this would be a nice place to drop some nuclear missiles really close, 90 miles from Florida. In this Cold War arms race, we can have some missiles on top of the U.S. real quickly. Kennedy balks on this. We came very close. I mean, we came this close to a world war. If we'd followed our military advisors, we probably would have been in a world nuclear war. But Kennedy and his brother Robert tried for different means to resolve this. Part of the grind was that we had stuck some missiles in Turkey. That we did a blockade. We were going to keep their ships from coming in. Ultimately, Khrushchev and Kennedy come eye to eye, and usually it's viewed as that Khrushchev blinked and they backed off. Backstory is we agreed with them that if they'd get all that out, right now we would back our missiles out of Turkey. So there's a point where missiles were going to be put in Cuba. Some were already kind of there, and we kind of freaked out and said, you know what, we're gonna blockade you. We're going to take whatever action necessary to stop this from continuing, and it kind of calmed down and everybody backed off. So that's the Cuban Missile Crisis. So let's see, what else have we got? We've got NATO. So NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That is the Western nations of Europe and ourselves coming together, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, as a collective group to safeguard against Stalin, who was the head of the Soviet Union, and the Soviet aggression that was expanding. So this was a group effort to say we're going to pool our resources together and act as one entity as much as we can, and protect each other from this communist growth. So I think that pretty well covers it. That is SE 8A. Hopefully that helps you.